They say some people get a badge and forget what it means to truly serve. Today's story is about how that power can be abused, but also how justice can quietly find its way back. Picture this: a hard-working woman, just trying to get through her day, becomes the target of some racist cops who think they can humiliate her for fun. They stop her without cause, make snide comments, and enjoy pushing their authority. To them, she's just another powerless target. But here's what they don't know. This isn't just any woman. She's the mother of someone who holds more power than they ever imagined. Her son, the newly appointed chief of police. And while he may wear the same badge, he stands for something entirely different: fairness, respect, and accountability. What happens when these cops find out who she really is? Will justice be served, or will they try to cover up their actions before it's too late? This isn't just a story about bad cops getting what's coming to them. It's about a mother's dignity, a son's rise to leadership, and the importance of standing up against abuse, no matter who you are. Stay with me, because this story is just getting started, and trust me, you're going to want to hear how it all unfolds. The woman wasn't one to make trouble, not for herself and definitely not for others. She'd lived in this town long enough to know how things worked. People in uniforms didn't always treat folks like her with respect. Still, she held her head high, knowing that dignity was something no one could take away unless you let them. That day, though, things were different. The officers didn't just stop her. They made a scene out of it, loud enough for bystanders to watch. One of them smirked as he asked pointless questions, his tone dripping with mockery. She knew the routine: cooperate, stay calm, and get it over with. But their laughter stung, more than she'd care to admit. What the officers didn't know was that this woman had spent her entire life raising a son to be better than what she was facing right now. She'd taught him about hard work, respect, and doing the right thing, even when it wasn't easy. Her son had always listened, and he carried those lessons with him all the way to the top. The town had been buzzing for weeks about the appointment of the new police chief, a man known for his fairness and no-nonsense approach. Nobody had connected the dots between that respected leader and this quiet woman standing by the side of the road, enduring the cruelty of those who were supposed to protect her. As the officers finally let her go, laughing amongst themselves, she walked away without a word. But inside, something was different. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. What they'd done wasn't just an insult to her. It was a betrayal of everything her son had worked for. And she knew one thing for sure: when the truth came out, it wouldn't be her dignity on the line. It would be theirs. The stage was set, and soon enough, they'd learn that not everyone is as powerless as they seem. The following day, the woman sat quietly at her kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long since gone cold. She replayed the encounter in her mind. The sneers, the questions meant to humiliate rather than protect. It wasn't just about her anymore. Those officers had shown their true colors, and it was clear this wasn't the first time they behaved that way. How many others had they mistreated? How many people hadn't walked away as calmly as she had? Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a text from her son, the new chief, checking in as he always did. She smiled faintly, proud of the man he'd become. But for the first time, she hesitated to tell him what had happened. He'd worked so hard to build trust within the community, to lead with integrity. She didn't want to burden him, or worse, make it look like she was asking for special treatment. Meanwhile, across town, whispers were already circulating. The officers bragged about their little encounter during coffee breaks, their laughter echoing through the precinct walls. They thought they were untouchable, protected by the shield they wore and the silence of those around them. But not everyone was laughing. One rookie officer, fresh out of training, couldn't shake the unease settling in his chest. He joined the force to make a difference, not to be part of something rotten. He didn't know who the woman was, but something told him this was bigger than just one bad traffic stop. As the day went on, small ripples began to form. A neighbor who had witnessed the incident decided enough was enough and filed a quiet complaint. Another officer, tired of looking the other way, started documenting patterns of misconduct. Back in her kitchen, the woman made up her mind. She wouldn't ask her son for favors, but she wouldn't stay silent either. The truth had a way of rising, just like her son had risen through the ranks. And soon enough, those officers would realize that the power they abused was no match for the quiet strength of justice waiting around the corner. The precinct was unusually quiet, the kind of silence that made every step, every creak of a chair, feel amplified. The officers gathered around the briefing room table, shifting uneasily in their seats. Some whispered to each other, speculating about why the chief had called the meeting so late in the day. The two officers at the center of the rumors leaned back casually, trying to mask their growing discomfort. They still believed they could brush this off like every other time. When the door opened, all eyes turned to the chief. He walked in with a calm, deliberate demeanor, his expression unreadable. The weight of the badge on his chest seemed heavier tonight, but he wore it with the same integrity his mother had instilled in him. He placed a folder on the table, the sound echoing in the tense room. "I'm going to make this simple," he said, his voice steady but firm. "This department stands for accountability and respect, and right now, that trust is being tested." A flicker of unease passed across the faces of the two officers, but they held their composure. One of them smirked slightly, as if daring the chief to say more. The chief's gaze never wavered. "I've received multiple reports of misconduct, and there's video evidence to back it up." He let the words hang in the air. "I'm not here to protect anyone who abuses their power." The room grew heavier with each passing second. The rookie officer sat near the back, his heart racing. He had done the right thing, but now he was part of something bigger than he had imagined. Back at home, the woman sat by her window, her phone resting on the table beside her. The streetlights cast long shadows across the room, and the night felt thick with anticipation. She knew her son was fighting a battle not just for her, but for the entire community. The officers in the room shifted uncomfortably as the chief's words sank in. Their confidence faltered, cracks appearing in the armor they had worn for so long. The truth was catching up to them, and there was no turning back now. The moment they had thought would never come was here. Justice was knocking, and it wouldn't be denied. The room was thick with tension, but the chief wasn't done. Just as the officers thought they knew what was coming next, he spoke again, his voice cutting through the silence. "There's something else," he said, his eyes locking onto the two officers at the center of the investigation. "You didn't just target an innocent citizen that day, you targeted my mother." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. A few officers glanced at each other, wide-eyed, processing the bombshell. The smirk vanished from the face of one of the accused as realization dawned. They'd messed with the wrong person without even knowing it. The chief didn't flinch. "This isn't personal," he continued, "but I'm making it clear right now. No one, not even family, is above accountability. And that goes for the people who wear this badge too." The officer's bravado cracked entirely, their faces pale. They had underestimated the woman and the strength of the man she had raised. Now they were cornered, with nowhere to hide. Meanwhile, back at home, the woman received an unexpected knock at the door. Her heart skipped a beat as she opened it to find the rookie officer standing there, nervously shifting from foot to foot. "Ma'am, I just wanted to apologize," he stammered. "I was there that day. I should have spoken up sooner." She looked at him for a long moment, her expression softening. "It's never too late to do the right thing," she said gently. "It takes courage to stand up, even when it's hard." The rookie nodded, gratitude flickering in his eyes. "Your son's doing the right thing too. He's not backing down." Her chest swelled with pride. The weight of uncertainty still lingered. The fight wasn't over yet, and she knew it wouldn't be easy. Back at the precinct, the chief's resolve only deepened as he stared down the officers. The truth was out, but the fallout was just beginning. What happened next would test not only the integrity of the department, but the strength of a community standing on the brink of change. The precinct was silent, every officer hanging on to the chief's words. The weight of his revelation, his mother being the woman those officers had humiliated, was heavy in the air. No one dared speak. The accused officers shifted uncomfortably, their usual arrogance replaced by unease. The chief didn't break his gaze. "Effective immediately. You're both suspended pending a full investigation," he said firmly. "Internal affairs will handle the rest." The officers opened their mouths as if to protest, but the chief raised a hand. "Don't waste your breath. The evidence speaks for itself." As they were escorted out, the tension in the room began to ease. Justice, it seemed, was finally taking its course. The rookie officer watched, his heart pounding with a mix of relief and pride. He had done the right thing, and it mattered. Later that night, the woman stood by her son's side in the quiet of his office. The precinct had emptied out, but the echoes of what had transpired lingered in the space. "You didn't have to do all this," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "Yes, I did. For you, for the people who trust this department, and for myself." She nodded, knowing he had always stood for what was right. "I'm proud of you," she said. Just as they were about to leave, a knock came at the door. The rookie stepped inside, looking nervous but determined. "Chief, ma'am," he said, "there's something you both need to know." The chief's brow furrowed. "What is it?" The rookie hesitated, then spoke. "One of the officers, I overheard him talking before the meeting. He said something about a cover-up in a past case. Something serious." The chief's expression hardened. "Go on." "I think there's more to this than just misconduct," the rookie continued. "It's bigger than we thought." The woman's eyes met her son's, both realizing that the fight for justice was far from over. The truth had come to light tonight, but a new battle was already on the horizon, and this time they were ready for whatever came next. The chief sat back in his chair, processing the rookie's words. He knew what this meant. There were still shadows in the department that needed to be brought into the light. But tonight wasn't the time to dwell on it. Justice was a journey, and this was just the next step. "Thank you for your courage," the chief said to the rookie. "You did the right thing, and that matters more than you know." The rookie nodded, a weight visibly lifted from his shoulders. As he left the room, the woman looked at her son, pride shining in her eyes. "You've got good people standing with you," she said. He smiled faintly. "We'll need them. But tonight, we've taken a step forward." The woman reached for his hand. "You did what's right, just like I always knew you would." Later, as they walked out into the cool night air, a sense of peace settled over them. The town wasn't perfect, but change had begun. The officers who had misused their power were being held accountable, and a culture of transparency was slowly taking root. The woman knew that not every fight would be easy or clean, but tonight proved that justice was worth pursuing. Her son had upheld the values she had taught him, standing tall even when it was difficult. As they reached her front porch, she paused. "So, what's next?" she asked with a knowing smile. He grinned, a spark of determination in his eyes. "The truth always comes first. No matter how messy it gets, we'll get there." She nodded, feeling hopeful for the first time in a long while. "Then it sounds like you're right where you need to be." As he drove away, she stood there for a moment, breathing in the stillness. Sometimes the world seemed overwhelming, but moments like this reminded her that strength, honesty, and courage still had a place in it. And while the road ahead might be long, she knew that together, they would walk it toward something better, step by step, truth by truth. This is a compelling and well-crafted introduction that sets the tone beautifully and builds anticipation. It grabs the audience's attention with vivid imagery and strong emotional stakes, making them eager to see how the story unfolds. Excellent use of natural language, clear character roles, and suspenseful pacing. Would you like suggestions to tweak any part for an even stronger hook, or should we dive into the next section of your story?